Hey everyone, my name is Abhishek and today we are going to create this stylized diamond animation in After Effects without using any third-party plugin. There are so many amazing techniques that you will learn in this video, so make sure to watch it till the end. So without wasting any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so right now I'm in After Effects and today we are going to create this animation, and this was inspired by Carl Johan. Sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, but he's an amazing artist who does this really nice work. I'll put a link in the description from where you can check him out. So let's begin. So first I'm going to create a new composition and let's call this main. Width and height will be 1920 by 1080 and frame rate 30 fps. Duration you can pick whatever you want, just okay. Let me just quickly close this comp. Now we have our composition, so let's begin by creating our shape. So I'm going to select the shape tool and just randomly draw a square. After that we can go inside the rectangle and let's change the properties. So I'm going to set this to 550, something like this. Now we can select this and let's enable the fill. So let's pick whatever color you want. Let's go with red and I'm going to set the stroke to 0. Now we can select this and we can press R for rotation. Now set this value to 45 degree so that we have it on an angle. Now we can select this and make sure that it's in the center of the comp. And if you're not able to see the align panel, then you can go to Windows and from here you can enable it. Now let's rename the layer. So let's select this and I'm going to call this full base. Now renaming the layers is very important because once you start adding more layers, it will become very confusing. Now let's select the layer and let's go under the content. Under rectangle path, let's right click and let's convert it to Bezier. So now we can select this layer and press Ctrl D to duplicate it. I'm going to call this half up, and after that let's duplicate it once again and let's call this half down, and I'm going to just quickly change its color. So let's make this blue and let's pick this one and let's make this blue as well, but a different shade, something like this. Just click on OK. Now we can probably disable the top one. Let's focus on this. So you can select the layer and then select the pen tool. Now you can hold the control key and you can see that it will show you to delete the vertex. Now we are going to delete the one so that we have a triangle in the upper region, and select the second layer. Now let's enable it, and on this one we are going to delete the top one because this is the bottom square, something like this. So now you can see we have these three layers and let's start animating them. So I'm going to select both of these layers and let's search for path. After that let's add keyframes. Now let's go to 1 second and I'm going to move these keyframes to over here, and let's go to the beginning and let's select the bottom half first. Now you can zoom in and I'm going to just simply select this vertex, and after that just hold down the shift key and let's move it to this side and just place it where we have the other vertex, something like this. So you can see that none of the layer is visible. If you want, you can use the arrow keys for more precision, and let's do the same thing with this one as well. So select this and let's move it over here. So just match it with it, something like this. So now if I play back, you can see we have this sort of animation, and after 1 second let's move to 2 seconds. And now I'm going to select this endpoint and I'm going to move it to this side, and we can probably zoom in. Again, just match it with the vertex, something like this. Now let's select this one and let's do the same thing. Let's match it with this one, just like that. So you can see that we have created this sort of animation. Now we can go back to the 2 second mark and we can press N so that our region is only this. So only this region will be playing, something like that. Let's trim it so that we don't have the same frame twice. So once we are happy with it, we are ready to add some gradient to it. So let's quickly create another composition. Let's call this gradient. Just click on OK. Now in this one, first I'm going to select the ellipse tool. Now we have to create bunch of different ellipses. So hold down the shift key and you can just simply start creating the circles, something like this. After that you can select this, press P for position and then hold on the Alt key and let's add wiggle expression to this. Now I'm going to set the value to something like 1,100. Now you can select this layer and let's press Ctrl D to duplicate it. And after that you can select the second layer and let's move it somewhere around here. Now you can also add some variation by increasing or decreasing the scale, something like this. Now again, let's press Ctrl D to duplicate it. Let's place it over here and let's scale this down, something like this. Now again, press Ctrl D and let's create one more over here. I'm going to make this even smaller. And let's select this, press Ctrl D and let's create one somewhere around here. Let's make this big. Now again, it's completely up to you, just randomly create some of these. And let's press Ctrl D to duplicate one more shape, and I'm going to just simply create one over here. So now you can see we have 6 shape layers and one is over here. So just randomly arrange them, and if I play back you can see that all these have wiggle expression. Now we can move them closer or farther, however you want. Again, I'm going to select all of these, press P for position, and we are going to add some variation to the wiggle. So let's change this to something like 200. Let's change this value to something like 300. Now I'm going to select this one and let's change this value to somewhere around 400. So now if I play back, you can see we have this sort of look. Now we are going to quickly add colors to these. So let's select this and I'm going to set this to, let's pick a really nice dark color, something like this, and let's change its color. So I'm going to set this to the same color. And let's pick this one. I'm going to set this to white. And let's pick this, and on this one we are going to create it a really nice pink color, something like this. And let's pick the pink color over here as well. Just change the color of these elements. Now we are going to add an adjustment layer. So right click, adjustment layer, and on this one let's apply fast blur. So search for fast box blur and let's drag it onto this. First I'm going to change the radius to something like 80 and let's enable repeat edge pixel. After that we are going to add 12. So just search for it and let's drag it onto this. Let's increase the amount to something like 100. Yeah, I think this is looking fine. Now I'm going to search for turbulent displacement. So search for it and let's drag it. And over here I'm going to change the amount to something like 70. So now if I play back here, you can see we have this really nice gradient animation. And now we can go back to the main comp and we can import our gradient into this. So let's select this and let's import it. Now I'm going to quickly select both of these layers and let's change their color. So let's make them purple. And I'm going to select this and let's make it green. Now there's one more thing. You can go inside the gradient and let's add a solid base. Just make sure that it's black color. Click on OK. Let's place it below all of these layers. Now we can go back to the main comp. Now we can select the gradient and we can start adding the set matte effect. So let's search for set matte. And let's drag it onto this. So first I'm going to set matte to the half up, and after that I can select this, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and let's set this to half down. Now I'm going to quickly disable all of these layers because we don't want to see them, and I'm going to select the full base and let's duplicate it, and I'm going to call this base up and base down as well. So let's select this, press Ctrl D, and let's call this base down, and we are going to do the same thing. So let me just quickly enable these two layers and let's solo them. So I'm going to select the up and select the pen tool, and let's hold down the control key and let's delete the bottom one, and on the down let's delete the up one so we can have these two triangles. Now we can go back and let's select the gradient, and I can press Ctrl D to duplicate it once again. And on this one I'm going to set this to base up, and let's duplicate it and let's set this to base down. Now we can select these gradients and let's change their color. So I'm going to make them cyan, just like that. So now we can select both of these gradient layers and let's place them below this, something like that. Now you can see that we are not able to see any variation because all the layers are doing the same thing. So first I can select this gradient and let's move it a little bit ahead. So now you can see we are able to see a variation over here. Now I'm going to select these two gradients and let's go to a 2-second mark. After that you can press star key or you can right click and go to marker and let's add marker. After that we can select both of these layers and let's move them further apart. And let's place this marker at the very beginning. Something like this. So now you can see we have added a variation to this. Just like that. Also in the beginning we can separate these two by simply applying levels effect to one of these. So let's search for levels and let's drag it on to the top one. And over here I'm going to just simply change this value and we can make this darker or lighter however you want. So if I play back, here you can see we have this sort of animation and you will notice that this is not a perfect loop because we can see that at the ending this frame is not matching this one. So in order to fix that, what we can do is we can select the gradient layers. After that press Ctrl D to duplicate them and let's move them to the top. And let's go to the 1 second mark. Now we can trim these layers and let me just quickly zoom in. Now I can select and press T for opacity. Let's add keyframes and I'm going to just move this little bit ahead. And in the beginning, let's set this to 0. So now if I play back, here you can see we have the infinite looping animation, just like that. It's time to add some highlight and some shadows to this. For that, first I'm going to select these two and I'm going to press Ctrl D to duplicate them and let's move them to the top. And I'm going to quickly change their name and I'm going to call them highlight up and highlight down. And we can select both of these layers and let's enable them. And on this one we are going to first disable the fill. So let's go to fill and let's set them to none. After that we can increase the stroke, something like this, so that we are able to see what we are doing. Now while both the layers are selected, we can search for length. And after that we can increase the taper length for both of these. So let's set this to 100 and this to 100 as well. And let's set both of these 200 over here as well. Something like this. So now we have these really nice edges. And again I'm going to quickly add trim path to both the layers so that we can control our highlight. So let's add trim path. Now we can focus on one of these layers for now. So I'm going to just simply solo this. So let's open this up and let's go under the trim path. If you want, you can enable the stroke a little bit more so that you can see what you are doing. Now over here you can play around with the start and end point to see where you want the highlights to be. But for this one I'm going to just leave it to this. And let's select the second one. And over here I'm going to change the value. So let me just quickly disable the first one. And let's increase its stroke so that we can see what we are doing. And over this I'm going to just quickly change the trim path. So let's play around with the start point, something like this. And once you're happy with it, you can select both the layers and let's change their value to 5, something like this. And let's disable the stroke. Now you can see that we have this very nice highlighted edge, and we can enhance this more by selecting both of them. Let's set this to add. Now let's add some edges to these as well. So in order to do that, let's select the full base and I'm going to press Ctrl D to duplicate it. And let's place it on top and let's call this highlight full. And on this one we're going to do the same thing. So first let's disable the fill. After that let's increase the stroke so that we can see what we are doing. Now we can go inside, or we can probably search for length, and let's set both of these values to 100. And now we can select this and let's add trim path. Now we can go inside trim path and I'm going to just quickly make it size smaller and we can focus on this layer. So let's solo this and let's move it somewhere around here. So we are highlighting this edge. Just play around with these values, and this is completely experimental to see what looks good, something like this. Now we can select this, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and on the second one we are going to highlight this edge. So let me just quickly move the stroke, something like this. Now we can select both of these and let's set this to 5. Let me just quickly zoom in and I'm going to just make this smaller. So I think this is looking fine, and let's move it to somewhere around here. Yeah, I think this is looking fine. Now we can unsolo these. Here you can see we have this really nice highlight edge. Let me just quickly place these below the gradient as well. So right now you can see we have some really nice highlight edges, and I want to have a highlight edge over here as well. So now to create that, let's select the base up. Let's press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and let's place it on top. Again, do the same thing. Disable this. Let's increase this. Let's search for length and set both of the start and end to 100. Now let's add trim path, and I'm going to place the trim path after the stroke, and let's disable this, and let's make this on the very center, something like this. Now we can select this, and let's set this back to 5. Perfect. Now we can select this, and let's move it below the gradients, just like that. So if I play back, here you can see we have this really nice highlight edge over here as well. Just make sure all of these layers are set to add, which are the highlight ones. So if you want, you can play around with the variations, and you can add some highlights over here as well, but it's completely up to you. And you can see that we have one small problem, that the stroke over here is visible, and at the end you can see that the stroke is not visible. So we can fix that by selecting the highlight up and down. And let's go to the ending, and let's press T for opacity. Let's add opacity keyframes, and let's move them a little bit ahead and set this to 0. And at the end we can add keyframes, and let's set this to 0 as well, so that we have both the animations same, just like that. And if you want to play around with the colors of it, then you can go inside the gradient, and you can just simply move these here and there, and it will give you a really nice result over here, something like this. But it's completely up to you. I'm going to leave it like this. So once you're happy with the animation, we can add some glow to the highlights. So let me just quickly select these, and after that we can search for glow, and let's drag it onto this. Now we can solo the layer so that we can see what we are applying, and let's increase it, and we can play around with the intensity. Let's lower this down. After that, let's select this, press Ctrl D, and let's increase this up. Now we can select both the glow layers and just copy this and just paste it on all of the highlight edges, something like this. So now you can see we have all the highlight edges, just like that. We can create another composition. Let's call this final, and let's drag our main comp over here. Now we can probably select this, and let's go back to the main, and we can right click and trim comp to work area. Now we can go over here. Let's select this, right click, time, enable time remapping. Now we can hold on the alt key, and let's type loop out, and you can move this further ahead. Now you can increase its timing to however you want, and it will have a perfect looping animation, just like that. Now if you want to have more variation, then what you can do is you can go inside this comp, and you can just simply select the gradients, and you can apply levels effect to this, and you can play around with the levels to make some of the edges brighter or darker, however you want. So we can go back to the final, and now let's add some glow to this. So first I'm going to create a new solid. So let's place this below, and on this one I'm going to apply 4 color gradient. So just search for it and drag it onto this. After that, let's pick colors from the object itself. So you can pick all of these nice colors from here as well, something like this. Now we can create an adjustment layer, and let's search for glow. Let's drag it onto this. After that, we can increase the glow radius, and let's decrease the intensity, something like 0.1 or 0.2 maybe. Let's select this, press Ctrl D, and we can play around with the amount and threshold as well. So you can see that we have added this really nice glow. If you want, you can press Ctrl D, and on this one I can increase the intensity, and let's increase the value. Just play around with the threshold, and if the colors are too hard, then you can select this, and let's select the gradient, and we can probably move them further, something like this, so that only this region is highlighted, just like that. If you think that the glow is too much, then you can reduce down its intensity by reducing the opacity, just like this. So here you can see we have created this really nice diamond, and we can also add some animation to it. So let's press P for position, and let's move this down, and at 2 seconds let's move this up, and again at 4 seconds let's move this down. So just copy and paste it. Now you can copy these keyframes and just paste it like that. There you go. Now you have this really nice looping animation. If you want, you can throw in some text over here so that you have this sort of look. So this is how you can create these kind of amazing stylized look. If you want to change the color, then you can go inside the gradient comp and you can pick different colors. So you can change the colors like this, and let's enable the Gaussian blur. So if I go back, here you can see we have updated our colors and now it's looking different. And you can do the same thing over here as well, just like this. So there you go. Now you can see we have created a new look. So there you go. This is how you can create these kind of stylized animation. And if you create one, then make sure to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see what you guys create. Also, the project files for this tutorial is available on Patreon. So if you are supporting me over there, then you can download it from there. And if you are not, then you might consider it, because you will get access to the tutorial project files and exclusive templates that are available only on Patreon. So with that being said, my name is Abhishek and I'll see you in the next one.